All right, guys. Really a lot to talk about. I mean, if we go back to Saturday night, just so many things in that game. The one constant, though, it seems like we talk every week of what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens. The one constant every week that you've heard me talk about so much is just get better, get better, get better, get better, consistency. Where the situation, there's so many different situations that happen. And, I talked to our team today about that. Whether it was you beat New Mexico State, you lost to Liberty, or you would have lost to New Mexico State, beat Liberty, or you would have won both games. Now you're playing UNLV. Their quarterback's playing. He's not playing. Each and every week, almost daily in this, there's so many different situations, right? So many highs, so many lows, so many positives, so many negatives, that the goal every single day is just be consistent and make improvement. And that's what this whole process is about. You go back to Saturday night, we could talk about certainly all the negatives in the game, all the things that happened, 42-10 at halftime, a blocked punt, roughed the punter on a punt return that would have gone down to the 2-yard line. We had 2 interceptions. We couldn't stop 82-11 on deep balls. We've got a lot of issues. We lost our quarterback again, Tavaka Toyota. Our second quarterback is still out for 3 or 4 more weeks. A lot of issues, but the positive is I know those issues can be solved because it was 14-0 in Las Cruces, and we came back and won the game. It was 42-10 at halftime at home. And we came back, and it was 49-43 with 3 minutes left in the game. We had 2 timeouts. It was 3rd and 6. It's a pretty good situation to be in after being 42-10 at halftime. We come back after they go down, obviously on the 3rd and 6. They throw the little comeback route to number 11. We're trying to get the ball out of there, can't tackle him. He goes all the way down. There was no quit. We forced them into a field goal right there. Now we get the ball back, 52 seconds I think it was in the game. No timeouts. We're down. We need a field goal and a touchdown to win. Sharon takes off and runs it down to the 26-yard line. It's 1st and 10 on the 26 with 47 seconds left in that game. We throw the ball into the end zone. We had a wide open guy. We throw it in the end zone. It's incomplete. Now it's 2nd down and 10 at the 26-yard line. 42 seconds left. We have Delane wide open on the outside. They go to a cover 3 cloud. The safety doesn't roll over enough. Sharon throws it down the middle of the field. They intercept it. Delane is wide open. So my point is we have things we have to correct. The goal is no different than the goal was if we would have beat Liberty or however the ebbs and flows of the season goes. We have to continue to get better. We have to continue to get better. With that said, offensively, a big part of our transition into the spread world from the triple option. Big part of our spread world going into this is as we became more refined, certain percentage of this offense was going to be triple option and quarterback runs so that we didn't have to put all the onus of that on the things we hadn't done a lot over the years. Well, the reality of that piece of it, because we're 2 quarterbacks down, is gone, right? I mean, you're not going to go out there now with your guy who started the season as 3rd on your depth chart and a true freshman, the only 2 scholarship quarterbacks you have, and do a lot of quarterback runs or run a lot of triple option. You may do it a little bit, but you're not going to do near as much percentage as we thought we would, right, as we transition into this world. So we've had to play in a true spread offense without a lot of experience in it. But you can see the potential we have. We had 580 yards Saturday night. Kind of ugly at times, particularly in the first half after the first drive. But we're being forced faster into be dependent on a true spread scheme. That's a problem. Another problem we've had continually, really since the Incarnate Word game, is deep balls. There hasn't been anybody that's ran by us, okay? That hasn't been the case at all. But on the 50-50 ball, playing against some bigger receivers with some average-sized defensive backs, we've not done a great job up going up and locating the ball, or if we don't go up and locate the ball, try to rake the ball from the receiver's hands if we don't look back to the ball. That's been a continual thing we have to work on. So I could stand here and talk all day. It's always about improving. It's always about adjusting. It looks like UNLV's quarterback won't play this week. Well, that really doesn't make any difference because it's all about us improving anyhow. If we don't show improvement, it doesn't matter who their quarterback is. Incarnate Word came in here with a true freshman quarterback. Wisconsin had a guy that played a lot of football. Liberty's had a guy that's been a 3-year starter that's a heck of a player. So it's all about us. It's all about improving. It's all about that atmosphere in practice of improving. And that's where we are. So questions? Arch, you want to go first?
Bob, is it your experience that it's easier to come?
You have to laugh a little bit. Right? Don't we have to laugh a little bit now? All right, Arch.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Is it your experience that it's easier to get that team focused coming off a victory or a loss, or how do you balance the two with the ebbs and flows?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, that is the chemistry of your team. That is the nature of the profession we're in. I don't know. Because we walked off the practice field last Tuesday, probably had his most energized practice we've had in a long time. Sometimes I don't know if that matters as much as at 1:06 on Saturday, when here are those matchups. Here's the technique that you're going to have to play out here for about 3 hours and 20 minutes. Can you do it over and over and have you improved? I don't know that the mindset, the philosophical, all the time we spend on all those conversations, at the end of the day, that technique and that matchup and doing it over and over, and ability level and all those things matter more, I think. So I don't know that it's ever dramatic. I think those are great things. When I was at ESPN, I mean, that was the storyline of every game I went into when I was announcing. Who has the advantage here? Who has the chip on their shoulder? Who has the motivation angle? Who had the open date last week? Who's playing at home and their record in the last 12? I'll be honest. When you put that tape on, I don't know that any of that matters. It is technique, improving how you play the game X and O wise. There's a little bit of momentum in there that you really can't control or you really can't see coming anyhow. Like we take that first drive of the field down the game. I don't know, we've scored fast around here. I don't know we've ever scored that fast. All of a sudden we go dead on offense for like the next 6 series, if we're honest. We get 1 field goal after a turnover. I mean, we started that game just like you pictured us starting a game in a rhythm. Now, what happened the next 6 series? Well, if you go look at it, there's a little breakdown, there's a little mistake, there's a little rawness in our offense because we're not precise enough yet. Then I go to defense. Nobody could have tried harder than our defensive backs. We got our best coverage guys on their 82 and their 11, but there was a little bit of technique breakdown. When I turned here and the receiver's behind me, I better go play that ball now. I better be a receiver. We kind of got caught turning, but we never got a chance to play the ball. And then a couple times we turned towards them, we kind of wanted to turn back at the last second, and the ball was there. So not to give a clinic, that's not what you want to hear. It's so much about controlling how we play and schematically what we do. So good question.
If I can follow that, though, last year you didn't have the momentum, obviously, and so those little plays were evident in the second half of the season, whereas the year before, when you went 9-4, those plays were going your way. So is that momentum a big part of it?
That's that football god, and there are football gods. And, I go back to last year throughout the season. We had our lowest GPA we've had since we've been here. I go back to that. We had some little things that caused distractions off the field and different things. Whatever all that is. And our margin for error here is so small week to week. You know, I've said this, you know, we played Liberty. I told you last week. Don't worry about the tradition or the name on that jersey. We're going to play a bunch of Liberties. And we've got about 8 more of them. Some a little better, some maybe not. The margin for error is so small that those are all the things that we try all the time to control. But, you know, that's what it is, you know. Just like they took the first drive, you know, the first 3rd and long, and they throw that thing up on a true jump ball to 82. We have our number 6 jump up, and that kid kind of pushes him a little, holds him a little bit, but goes up and makes the play. Momentum. You know, we returned a punt down to the 2-yard line, which would have made it 14-7, but we ran into the kicker. Momentum. You know, so, but it always comes back to you're one play away from gaining momentum, but you have to technique and you have to make a play to do it. So it always comes back to the X and O's and the execution of things.
Coach, athletes experience that feeling of winning together, losing together, and then the feeling of making a comeback together. You leave that field hopefully on the same page. Is there enough positive to carry over there that spells character on your football team?
You asking me if I felt good at the end of that game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, if we'd have won the game, it all comes down to winning and losing at the end. That's the bottom line. When you go in that locker room and when you show up Sunday morning in there at 8 o'clock and you're right back at it, it's all about winning and losing. But with that said, like I started this, we have issues. But the fact that we do have a group of guys that are resilient enough and tough enough and care enough that we're able to make that kind of comeback, that gives you hope. But to say you felt good because you had a comeback but you lost, absolutely not.
That's not what I meant. I just want to know. It's a gut check to make a comeback.
We've had a few. And I think back to Wyoming last year. I think back to Texas A&M last year. I think back to Las Cruces this year. I think about Saturday night. We got plenty of character. I'm tired of showing that by being down like we are at halftime. We've proven that point. Okay, we've got that part figured out. We got to play better. We got to play better.
This game is so much about emotion. Are you angry? Do you feel angry?
No, I feel like I do every year I've done this, of just you're putting your name on something. And more importantly, you're putting the players' names on it, and you feel responsible. So it's a week-to-week thing of anger's not nearly the right word. It's urgency. It's urgency, because no matter how long you've done this, the difference between winning and losing is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous what a gap, how much different it is to win and lose. I think it actually gets harder. You know, where some people might think it gets easier the longer you've been in this, that you've been in a lot of games, or no, I mean, it never changes. You know, the difference between winning and losing is so significant that there's a tremendous amount of urgency. You know, obviously with experience, you control the frustrations, you control the anger, you control all those things that can be negative to keep you from showing improvement. Because if you spend a lot of time on those emotions, again, you're off the target of all the things that I've just talked about of trying to correct. But it stings. And, you know, I talked to our players today again. I mean, there's a certain amount of time it takes to rebound, where you're absolutely able to say, okay, that slate is wiped clean, now let's go. And it takes some time to do that. And if it doesn't, you're probably doing the wrong thing. You know, if it's not important enough to you that you're going to feel awful after you lose a game, it's probably time to move on. And with feeling awful, you know, you're going to show some real emotion, and you're going to show some real, if you're not, you're a pretender in this game, to me. So I wouldn't say anger, you know, but you go through, when you're laying there Saturday night, and you've been married 40 years, and you had a wife that's been in every one of these all the way back when you were an assistant and you were a defensive coordinator, and she's heard it all now, all through the night. So you're going to go through all those emotions, but kind of like that Barry Alvarez quote he gave me about close the blinds before you go into fetal. I don't know if I've ever told you guys about that, but when it's time to go again, you got to go. You got to go. So certainly there's a lot of emotions, but the bottom line is you better get through all that, and you better go coach again and lead again.
Coach, when you had the open week, you were talking about how much Sharon progressed. Now that you have him, and he knows he's a starter, he knows what the situation is now. What have you seen from him? Is he just keep going forward and forward? Or?
You know, the dynamics have changed. You know, when we did, when Sharon was the starter in Las Cruces, we knew that it would be a week before Tavaka was back, right? Now the reality is Tavaka isn't coming back. There is no Tavaka coming back now. He had surgery yesterday. The surgery went well. You know, Gerhardt, probably a lot like UNLV's quarterback. That's a significant injury with that toe. It's been a while till he's back. So it is Sharon now. So the package gets tweaked a little bit more than it would have in Las Cruces because that was kind of a one-game, hopefully kind of thing. Not that Sharon couldn't have won the job or couldn't have been the starter, but you knew you had multiple quarterbacks. You know, we're still looking at 3 scholarship quarterbacks the next week. Now it's 1 scholarship quarterback who just got here in the summer, and it's another one that just got here. We got 2 quarterbacks, both of them got here this summer. One a true freshman and one a junior college transfer. So it changes a little bit now. But he has been, I'll tell you, he's been great with this. He's a competitive guy. He's very confident. He can throw it. He can throw it. He has thrown some really bad interceptions, though. He threw 3 against Liberty. He threw 2 against Wisconsin, and the first one against New Mexico State was kind of a calamity of errors for all of us. He's got to control that football better. He's got to control the football better. And with more exact reads, he'll make better decisions. So, you know, I did a lot of talking there, but, you know, it's different now because the quarterback's not coming back, the other quarterback. I mean, that's a heck of a situation to be in, right? I mean, we were down 2 quarterbacks last year like that, and we're down 2 quarterbacks again. Anybody else?
And you know, it's the battle of the trenches at the offensive line. And at this point of the season, what's the progress of our offensive line? Are you happy the way they're playing right now, or can they get better?
I'm happy we're healthy. You know, we've, knock on wood, we've stayed healthy there. You know, back to the point that we have asked them to do a lot in a short amount of time of true preparation. What I'm getting back to is, I mean, we're in a true pass protection mode now. I mean, we're down 42-10. I mean, we're throwing it now. Threw the ball, 42 times the other night. I mean, it takes, if you look at Liberty, they've had that same offense together for 3 years now with that quarterback. And 82, he's played 4 years. It takes time, particularly when you're going from a triple option style offense where you threw it 9 times a game to now we're going out there and throwing it 42 times. So I'm really pleased with what we're asking them to do with a short amount of time to really get polished at doing it. But you could see a couple times Saturday night we got overwhelmed in pass protection. You know, it's a relatively new world for Teton Saltis and some of those guys. I mean, we're asking them to drop back, protect now. More percentage than we would have if we had everything in place as we look to put this offense in. So there's some growing pains, but they have been, you know, I look at what Cal Stapley's done at center to come in here and start at center for us. Aaron Jenkins just keeps going. You know, Teton, Chris Estrella playing left tackle, a guy that's probably a guard and just getting better each week. And then Charlie Graham has been really consistent for us in there. I couldn't ask for much more. We just need more time and more seasoning and more polish doing some of the things that over the past couple of years we haven't done as high a percentage as some of these teams we're playing against.
Coach, you've been around a while and you've seen a lot, but I mean, have you ever had to reinvent the offense midstream the way you have with this one?
Last year a little bit, you know, not as dramatically because we were, you know, to answer your question, no. You know, I've had some situations over the last couple of years. You know, one year we were 10-1 at Notre Dame, beat LSU. And on the last play of the game, we lost our starting quarterback, Jarius Jackson. And at 10-1, we had to go out to SC and play for a BCS bowl bid. And we went with a kid named Eric Chappelle that was a freshman, which caused us to do a lot of things. But to be this early in the season with a new offense, with a heck of a plan going in, with the triple being a significant piece of that, which would have been a heck of an offense, and then to lose two quarterbacks for such an extended period of time right out of the gate, and then your third quarterback didn't have any camp because he just got here in August and then had a hamstring for 2.5 weeks. That's why I go back to keeping things in perspective. But it's been kind of interesting because there's been we had 580 yards. So we were able to come back in the game because of what we do. But we might not have been behind that far in the game if we weren't this offense right now. You get what I'm saying? I mean, there's trade-offs to everything. You know, we've had some wild plays. We've had some things that, man, look at that. But there's no question that you say, well, you know, if we were running triple right here, we could have. We're still in that transition where we hoped it would be a 40% what we were, 60%. Where now we're about 100% of new. But you know what? That's what this game is. You know, you look at UNLV this week. With that quarterback, who I think is not going to play this week, being out, that's significant now. But it's only significant if we are good enough on defense, we're good enough on special teams, we don't get a punt blocked. You know, it's only significant if we make an improvement in all those other areas as a team.
Coach, after watching the film on the defensive side, what would you like them to carry over from the second half that was working better in the second half?
You know, I'm pretty realistic. You know, the second half, they played a little bit different. You know, number 12 went out a couple times with cramps. But we did play better. We did mix it more. You know, we went in with a mindset of we were taking the space out of it, and we were going to jump up there and play man with the nickel in there and 3 good coverage guys underneath. You know, really how we played New Mexico State. You remember 2 weeks ago I talked about we've got some DBs with ball skills. We've got some guys that can cover. We need to play to our strengths. So we went in there really saying, okay, we're going to come out and we're going to play a lot of man. Second half, we mixed it up more. You know, we were a little more of zone, a little more space, but a little grayer for the quarterback. Because in the first half, when it was man, if we were pressed, every time it was going to be a fade. Every time it was going to be a fade. And they were on a roll with fades, with 11 and 82. I mean, that's what it was. So in the second half, we said, okay, let's make it a little more gray for the quarterback, even though they have a little more space off the RPO stuff to throw it. Overall, I think just the confidence that we started to play with a little bit more. You know, it's so much about confidence with us right now on defense. It really is. Because we've been hitting the mouth here early. I think we helped them a little bit schematically, but I do realize the game was different in the second half for our defense because they didn't quite have the attack mode on offense.
I was going to ask about the injuries, and you said, knock on wood, the O-line is healthy, that's terrific, but it does seem like at the start of this year, the number of season-ending or severe injuries to key players is higher than I can recall in recent years. I'm sure it's happened before somewhere in your career, but I think that has made an impression on all of us. So with, starting with Sellers in camp and then just going down the line, Alex and now Tabaka.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of injuries, but we've had the pretty significant injury. You know, if I could, you know, you're always going to have guys that miss a week, miss 2 weeks, miss this, miss that. But, you know, with Trent Sellers going down and Alex going down, those are really good players that are lost for the year. And then at a position so critical as the quarterback. So I don't think it's been an excessive amount of penalties. It's just been in some key spots that are so glaring. You know, when you lose an Alex Hart, that's like losing a Dakota Cox, that everybody knows that name, not only what he brings, but that's going to get a lot of recognition. We haven't had a whole lot of injuries other than those, though. You know, so just, you know, we got hit at key spots. But A lot of people have them too. I mean, you look at what happened to UNLV here with the quarterback in the toe. I mean, it's the same thing there.
Last one, Matt.
Coach, I know that it's not, you always say you're not going to tell people what to do as far as come to a game and stuff like that, but does it get frustrating after a while when you look out and like the game's getting ready to start, and like this section over here was pretty empty? When people don't come, I mean, it's a 4 o'clock game, so Saturday, good weather. And
You know, Van, honestly, I can honestly answer that question by saying no. That doesn't frustrate me at all. And I think because I'm not frustrated by it, our team doesn't get frustrated by it. You know, I don't really think it's a win situation to talk about it. I kind of think that old thing of it is what it is. You know, I've been pretty impressed with our students, how they've come out. I don't let that create a negative in my mind, because if I do that, then that's going to kind of carry over to the players. And there have been some positives with it. You know, I look at the student body the first game. I look at the turnout down in Las Cruces. You know, I wish people would have stuck around Saturday night because they missed a heck of a second half that was very entertaining, and maybe that would have brought some more people out. We don't play at home again for another 2 weeks. I mean, stop and think about that now. When we have played Incarnate Word at home and Liberty at home, and we'll go to UNLV and we'll go to Vegas before we come back in that stadium again. But the bottom line, none of that matters when that ball is up in the air and there's technique involved. You know, you can control certain things and other things you can't control. And if you get on the path of talking of all those things you can't control, you're like a roller coaster, you know? Okay, man, appreciate you guys.